Why is the Palladium important to you?
Honestly, I have spent more time in this building in the last 21 years than I have in my own home. It is taking care of this place. It's more than a job. It's a commitment. I adore the place. There's nothing like it. I mean, I know there's other, Art Deco theaters out there, other old theaters like they used to be the Hippodrome out in Springfield and stuff that do similar things. But the Palladium, it has a certain draw to people, and it has a certain draw to me. Not just the fact that I love this building, it's so unique, but I'm kind of a sap with it. The shows we've had here, how happy the fans are, it makes me feel good. Like, you look at 2,000 something customers at a sold out show, and they're yelling and they're screaming and they're watching. And I get to see like some 13-year-old kid down in the crowd with stars in their eyes. And it's the first time that they're standing there and watching their heroes on the big stage. I remember watching at one of the Metal Fests, a couple was there on their anniversary here, and they were playing some like ballads on the house music in between the band sets. And people just cleared out, and they're literally just slow dancing the cheesy 80s ballads in the middle of the floor. And it's just like, oh my God, this is fabulous. I absolutely love this. And just the happiness that we can bring to people, it really means so much to me.
When I was a kid, I was an emo kid, so all I liked to do was go to shows and be obsessed with bands, and this was the easiest venue for me to get to. All my favorite bands came to the Palladium. So anytime like one of my favorite bands announced a tour, it was like, oh man, like, are they coming to Boston or are they coming to Worcester? And 9 times out of 10, they'd be coming to Worcester. It's the one that I love the most. Like, I know that the staff takes good care of us. From the patron point of view, it just always had like a very special place in my heart. This is a place that inspired me to do the career path that I am on right now. So I owe a large part of who I am to this building.
For me, it was a very important room for me when I got into playing music. I started playing in bands in high school, and once you get out of high school and you're old enough to start like playing in like smaller rooms, like you get your first band going, you have some friends who are coming out, you'll play like a couple club shows, for me it was in Worcester, and once you get a few people, you realize, oh, we could do this like in a legit room. So for me, being 18 or 19, first band, working really hard and noticing some people are going to come out, it becomes a thing where, holy crap, maybe we can play the Palladium. But it's a proving ground for independent music in Massachusetts. It's a very historical room. It's got higher end production. It's the spot. If your band can get in there, you're legit. I used to jokingly call it the metal mecca, but it really is. People all over the country know about the Worcester Palladium. I've had bands come through from Europe who come in here and they go, wow, I can't believe I'm in the room from the Killswitch DVD. That's such a beautiful thing.
I have an incredible amount of incredible memories here as a patron and as an employee. The amount of art that has come through here in the form of music for the city and for the attendees, you can't even calculate how many happy people have left this venue after a show. It's not Boston, it's not Providence, it's not a city where you can just really easily access what we do in multiple venues throughout the city. There are some other theaters in Worcester and they're fantastic, but music clubs of our size, it's us. It's very accessible to people from many states. When we wristband people for drinking at shows and we look at their IDs, they come from all over. And that and the history of the building, this is a very, very special venue.
So can you tell me a little bit about the history of the space itself?
This venue has been through a lot. This venue opened in 1928, and it's always been open except for COVID. It was a movie theater. There's still remnants of a bowling alley. I mean, they would do dance nights even in the venue here. We used to have a DJ booth on the floor that we don't have anymore. I believe the majority of the time it has been a concert or live event venue. You know, I would have loved to see a movie in this type of space. I would have loved to see what the inside of the building looked like back then. But you know, I'm really glad that it's still here because it's been through so much history. It is the outside of the building looks phenomenal. It looks classic. They don't build buildings to look this way anymore. Even on the inside, we have all kinds of very old decoration and setup. You know, the chandelier even is original. So it's been through a lot. I've always known it as a concert venue, but before that, it still had a whole lot of history. And you know, Timmy knows a ton more than I do too.
Nerd out. So let's see, permits and plans were submitted to the state in 1926. Construction began in 1927 for an opening date of November in 1928. And even if they weren't sure about that, my car nerd side looks at the picture of opening night and I can definitely see a 1928 Model A sitting out front. It used to have a hotel attached to it. You can see in some of those pictures. You can see it if you look at the side of the building where the roof line was. And this whole block was a lot more active back then. Where our front office and the cafe are in the building, those used to be small businesses like a watch shop. It used to be, initially it opened as the Plymouth Theater. Then eventually, I think around the 50s or 60s, there was an E.M. Lowe's Theater. 70s and 80s started doing the nightclub thing in here. And it was closed for a decent chunk of change between, I think, the early to mid 80s and the early 90s, where the owners at that point, the lawyers next door, did a huge renovation and gave us what is the basic layout of the Palladium as we see it these days. They really changed the face of the interior of the building. So like some of the Art Deco stuff was lost, but some of it was repaired and accentuated. Most of it was a positive change so that it was able to operate as a modern business, well, as a modern concert business. Being a 95-year-old building also comes with the problem of the history of the building is great, but it's very hard to keep up with the technology, the constantly evolving technology of the venue and club business in this day and age. I believe Mass Concerts has involved in the Palladium since the late 90s. And then, you know, I came into the scene in 2002. We've done a lot of really neat events and stuff like that. You know, we've had Bob Dylan for years. We were doing boxing matches that were put on by the police department's gang unit, and that all benefited the Boys and Girls Club for anti-gang programs and stuff. And for me, that's a big part of the history, because I was always very happy that we were able to help to contribute something to the community.
The other thing, like with our venue specifically, is like we really care about the community. We really care about, you know, the local bands. Like it's real people running these venues, not somebody that's sitting in an office in New York City, you know, calling the shots at a venue in Oklahoma. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like we're here, we're on the ground. Like we're the ones that see the people putting in the work. We see how people are responding to the bands. And it's important to us that the bands have a good time here because it's more than just a dollar amount.
Can you tell me a little bit about New England Metal and Hardcore Fest?
If the Palladium is a proving ground, then New England Hardcore Metal Festival is the gladiators arena. You get all the killers who love heavy shows. You put them on one stage, two stages, sometimes three at the same time, and you give the people the best metal show that they're gonna see out here for the whole year.
So yeah, it's just a legendary metal and hardcore fest that's about as old as I am. That was started by Scott Lee, Gina, John, but it's a legendary metal and hardcore festival where we pull some of the best bands from the world and we put them all in one place and then just have a blast the way that we like to do. Nobody does metal and hardcore the way the Palladium does. Like it's cool when we get to have our normal shows with 4 bands, but like having all of these bands, a lot of them having like big history here, like Shadows Fall, and having them all play together is just like, it's just fucking awesome, you know?
Like, I remember I saw Killswitch Engage, day 2 of Metal Fest. I think it was 2015 or 2016. And my friends and I had work, so we could only meet up and get there just in time to see Killswitch close out day 2. We went to day 1, we got the crap kicked out of us, and we loved it. I mean, so they might be blending together because we would go to every one for a long time, but seeing Madball and then DRI and then Suicidal Tendencies and then Killswitch, like There's not a lot of places you can see that.
And the Metal Fest, it's just always been a good combination of huge national acts, smaller acts, and then also being able to get regional and local groups in on the smaller stages so that they can show us their chops, they can show us what they got, and they can get that access to playing with huge bands, maybe push their career forward a little bit.
Just like the support system that we have with these festivals is like we're all so close knit, and that's like another thing with like it not being a corporate environment is like you can develop in the position that you're in to be something more, and it's easier to do that here than it would be in a more corporate, cutthroat, competitive setting. And like Scott Lee, one of the festival's founders, he worked really closely with me on the last one that we did to like help me see what his process was when he was the production manager. Like just that mentorship is so priceless to me. You know, it's about supporting each other and supporting this genre of music or genres of music that, you know, aren't necessarily mainstream. So I would definitely say that like community is a huge aspect of that festival.
If you're going to run an independent venue, you're not doing it entirely independently as an individual. You need a team. You book a great show, but without a crack production team, tours are going to have a bad day, they won't come through. If the box office isn't working, you know, patrons aren't going to come back. Like, you need a team. Working in an independent house, you get treated like a vital member of the team. Could we make more money? Sure. Do we work harder in houses like this than we would in a Live Nation house or any sort of big box place? Possibly, I wouldn't really know. But at the end of the day, what Meg Keogh says rings true. Take care of your crew, and they'll take care of you. I think the reason people work at the Palladium for a long time is that they get treated like that. There's like sort of toxic terms you never want to use, like we're a family. It's like a trope that a lot of businesses use to try to guilt you out of asking for what you're due, but God damn it, working at the Palladium, I have found family.
We want to be a band-friendly venue. We want, you know, the artists to feel like they're being supported and like somebody cares about them, because touring is not easy. I've done it plenty myself, and like it just like it's such a game changer when you walk into a venue and you see a smiling face that's like, welcome, this is where this is where that is, can I get you anything? As opposed to walking into a venue and you can't even find the promoter rep, or somebody's yelling at you for going in the wrong door, like something like that. On the patron side of it, we also we want to continue to be that place that feels like home for a lot of people. Like we want people to know that they can come here and they know where everything is. They know that the staff cares about them. They know they're going to be respected. They know that if they get up and crowd surf and go over the barricades, somebody's going to catch them.
It's more of a home feel here, and I think a lot of our attendees who, you know, they keep coming back because they have that feel too. They have that nostalgia, but they also have grown with us, you know, as we evolve. Even though we, you know, we're still very much keeping our old-fashioned feel here. You know, we still evolve. You know, our booths that we've added over the years. Our ADA section is gigantic. All kinds of renovations to update for people's needs of nowadays. You know, we have the decks up by the stage so you can watch from above, and that, you know, that was a great addition. So as we change, the fans update themselves with us, and they keep coming, and their loyalty is amazing.
Community is definitely the big thing, because like even working Barricade, I see, you know, the same 5 people at like every single show.
Right, exactly. And a lot of other venues, they have like secondary security teams that come in. So it's always different people. It's not, you know, the same people that take pride in the fact that they're running an independent venue, or just take pride in their venue at all.
What does the Palladium have that the other bigger venues don't, would you say?
Personality. You go into, say, you know, nothing against them, they're a great venue, the DCU Center, stuff like that. A big venue, arenas, stuff like that. You're sitting in your chair 1,000 feet away from the band. You got to pay so much more for tickets. It's a much less personal experience. You're in a bigger, somewhat colder in personality building. Nothing against their staff, nothing against the people working there, But in here, you're much closer to the bands. It's a much more interesting environment to be in. The sound guys who work in here do a fabulous job. You're wrapped in the experience in this place. Seeing an arena show can be a fabulous thing. One of my first big shows was at an arena. But when you come to something like the Palladium, you're much more enveloped by what is on the stage. You know what I mean? What's around you is able to fade, and you're able to focus a lot better on the magic that these artists are creating in front of you.
I went to the downstairs for a 4 Year Strong Christmas show, and I only really knew 4 Year Strong, but you know, you're young, you get there before the first band so you can see everybody. And the first band goes on, and I'm just sort of like watching from like by the merch area, and I'm catching it, and this first band's really good. I'm like, all right, that's cool. And the crowd's like present, they're excited, they're not really moving. They're just sort of like, it was like the old stereotype for a long time. It's like, oh, this is the first band. Well, I'm not gonna dance. I don't wanna get too tired. I looked it up after the fact. I'm pretty sure it was Such Gold. Great band. But the second band was Transit. The only thing I'd heard about Transit was that they were from New England and that this was sort of like their home spot. So I'm like, okay, let's see what all this is about. And I've made my way down from the merch area, down both sets of stairs to the mosh pit, the dance floor, whatever. And the band's checking, and the lights are changing, the house music comes down. I'm like, all right, let's watch this. And before I'm done with that thought, I'm moving forward. I'm not walking. Everybody else has started moving forward, and they've moved so fast that I've been picked up and squished into the crowd. So I'm just kind of floating closer and closer to this band, whether I want to or not. And this whole set, I don't think my feet touched the ground once. I'm just moving around, and I don't care. Like, the adult me now, having seen more of the world, would be like, oh, this is like a claustrophobia thing. What if someone pulls the fire alarm? But I'm just watching them being like, these guys are really, really good.
Yeah, we make a lot of people happy, and I'm really happy about that myself. You know, of course there are problems with every show, and sometimes people don't have the respect for themselves or the show that they need to, and we deal with it. But you know, 99% of the crowd has a happy time, and they leave in a good state of mind. They want to come back. You know, we have a customer who comes to every metal show, every kind of metal show. He's here for almost every show, and that's amazing. We have customers that we know their names or we know their nicknames because of, you know, they wear a certain thing whenever they come to the show, and you know, they know us, and you know, we're high-fiving and whatnot. Like, people have fun here, and that's a good thing.
Our vision has always been to rock. That is always our mission, is to just put on a show and have a good time. That is our mission every single day. Every day when I walk in here for a show and I shake a tour manager's hand, my goal for the day is for them to have a good show. Like, that's what's important to us. It's also important that, you know, patrons feel safe and welcome here and respected here. That's definitely something that's important to us.
Why do you think it's important to support the independent venues?
Man, I think it's really important to support independent venues for the same reason that you should support mom and pop shops and all indie businesses, because without small business, we have nothing. That spirit is reflected in a lot of independent artists that I see come through, and nobody gets into show business because they want to make a lot of money. They get into it because they love what they do and they want to like share their gift with somebody or help somebody else amplify or share their gifts. One of the coolest days at work for our venue was the band Blackberry Smoke. They've been entirely independent their whole career, and they'd never been here before. We gave them a great show. We pulled out all the stops for them. They put on an amazing show, and at the end said that this was one of the best spots they'd been to in the Northeast. I say the cliche showbiz baby all the time to just sort of like laugh off whatever cluster fucking is happening at work that day. It's like, oh, nobody's on time. There's no CO2 canisters for the confetti cannon. Somebody lost their wrench and they're bitching about it. I'll just say, showbiz baby, because it really is one of the greatest fucking things ever. There's some things that are never going to go away. Cockroaches and showbiz. Like, people need that kind of stuff, and they need a place where they can find it if not on a regular basis, whenever they can, because no matter what, we all deserve to consume art, and we deserve to be able to foster the growth of independent artists and industries. Like, we all need to take pride in like involving ourselves with independent venues. And if you haven't become involved with one, find one near you.
So just from like supporting grassroots and local like levels of the music industry, I think it's important to support the indie promoters and the indie venues, because like you don't get that same mom and pop feel that you do at other venues. We want to support the local scene. We want to build the local scene. Giant bands that sell 20,000 tickets do not appear out of thin air. Everybody started at the bottom. And like we've been talking about, watching the bands grow, that's part of our goal. Is we want to help develop bands. We want them to have that stepping stone. That's why you see us doing like the local showcases all the time. Like, we're giving these bands a professional setting to do their art.
It was really difficult getting into this room being really young, especially if you're under 21. There's almost no opportunities. Like, I worked at a club where you could do under 21 nights, but you could only do them on Sundays, and you had to start them really early in the day. And that became a bit of a struggle. But after doing those for like a year or 2 years, I started just frantically submitting to get onto battles of the bands. And that's something that the Palladium has that other houses weren't really doing at the time. They were having these long days where they would bring up like 10 or 12 local bands, give them a short set, and let them experience being in this big room. And if they did well enough, they would get invited back. I did a battle with a band where the winners from 2 separate days got to go open the local stage at Warped Tour. And they weren't like just doing that for no reason. They were doing that to help the scene grow.
We couldn't do it if, you know, we had this big corporate ladder that we needed to run everything up, you know? If a band gets into a van accident because somebody rams into their van after the show, and it's the opener, I can go to my bosses, like the 2 top dogs, the people that make the decisions, and say, hey, this band just got like, you know, they just had some hard times. Can we maybe like give them a break on their merch cut or something? It's easy for them to come back and be like, yeah, no problem, you know? Whereas if we weren't what we are, you just could not do that, you know? It's just easier to support bands, especially like as they grow throughout their career, when you don't have like 97 people trying to make a decision about like what show gets booked where. And also just like the spirit of competition, you know? The American dream. None of us like that work here are corporate people. Like, I like working for an independent promoter, you know? Like, I like that we're a non-union house. I like that I can pull somebody off the street that says that they want to be a stagehand, and they have, you know, a resume that shows that they're a hard worker, and I can just be like, yep, come do load-in. You know what I mean? Exactly. And we don't have like a big, fancy, long, stupid hiring process or anything like that. It's just like, yep, come make your dreams come true.